July 4th is a major holiday in the United States. It's considered the birthday of our nation. This is the day we celebrate our independence. In honor of Independence Day, I'd like to meet the request of one of my viewers and share some American history with you. I'm not a history buff, but I know enough to share a little bit about the birth of my country. 1776 is the day the American colonies declared their independence from the British Empire. There were 13 colonies at the time: New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. The colonists began questioning British rule even before the 1770s. They felt that they had certain rights that King George III and his government didn't recognize. British laws were used in the colonies, but the colonists had little or no voice in the British Parliament. Unfair taxes created a lot of anger among the American colonists. In fact, one act of protest became so famous, it's known as the Boston Tea Party. It took place in 1773. Basically, a group of colonists threw tea from the British East India Company into the water of Boston Harbor, destroying the tea before it could be sold. The act helped set the American Revolution. By 1776, the American colonies had formed the Continental Congress, and it was this body of government that adopted the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. Fighting with Great Britain had begun in 1775, and what became known as the American Revolutionary War lasted all the way till 1783. Not all colonists stood against the British Crown. Those who supported the king were known as loyalists. Those who wanted to separate from the king and his rule were called patriots. The patriots were greater in number, but even so, the British had a stronger army. Luckily for the patriots, France supported the American Revolution, and we won the war with help from the French. The Treaty of Paris was signed in 1783, and then the world recognized the United States of America.
Separate. Those who wanted to separate from the king and his rule were called patriots. To separate is to pull away from, to be free from. Note that the same word can be a verb or an adjective. As a verb, we say separate. The adjective is separate. Separate means being free from something and not a part of it.
Gaining our independence was and is a cause for celebration, but sometimes one person's gain is another person's loss. I believe it's important to remember what the birth of the United States meant to the people who were here before the European colonists. Native Americans, sometimes called American Indians, once lived from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, and they had their own nations. The American colonies were built on their lands. The formation and growth of the United States meant the gradual end to their way of life. For this reason, some Native Americans actually fought on the side of the British during the American Revolutionary War. The British lost the war, and Native Americans continued to lose their land and their way of life. For a long time, this was not recognized widely as a tragedy. But today, many Americans know the history and feel compassion for Native Americans. We can't change history, but we can learn from it. The Declaration of Independence mentions our right to pursue happiness, but we shouldn't pursue happiness at someone else's expense.